irritating just in a few
I'm sure you
minutes?
did.
No, that's not true. I'm not experiencing that. You're delightful, but keep going. I'm sorry.
So that's how it began. Another year went by. The BBC heard about his research, not on me, but his research in general. So they came in to do some videotaping for 3 days that they were going to include on a program on healing that was aired in England. They came in, and the doctor, Ed Wilson, suggested that they call me. He said that, you know, we have a lot of people we could look at, but Roger's the only one that I have found that can do what he can do when he wants to. So he did 3 days of filming with me. The cameraman I met on that filming was from the Denver market. And a year and a half later, it turned out he was the best friends of a helicopter pilot that went down in a crash, had no vital signs. They went in and massaged his heart and got him going and had him on life support. And he overheard I think it was about 4 days into it, he overheard the neurologist telling Peter's wife there was no hope because of his brain waves. And that's when he said to Karen, you know, I remember a year and a half ago filming a guy who does strange things with brain waves. I think I'll call him. And that was my first case.
I can't wait to find out what you do. We're going to find out how Roger brings people out of comas when we return. Welcome back to The Other Side. In this age of science, doctors are often seen as miracle workers. What happens when science fails? Stacy Baldino was faced with that problem after a tragic accident left her husband in a coma with no hope of recovery. Clutching at straws, Stacy asked for the impossible and got it. Thank you for joining us, Stacy. Thanks for being here. Well, your husband had a terrible accident. Tell us about it.
Yeah, he really did. I was awakened about 6 o'clock in the morning on September 27th. It was on Tuesday. And I was told by the producer of a TV, actually it's a production company that had been hired by a network to film a television movie in Florida. He called and said, well, I have some news. Vincent has fallen off of a trailer while filming, and he's being rushed to the hospital, and we don't know a whole lot at this point. But over the course of 3 conversations that morning, he led me to believe that, because that was all the information he had at the time, but he said that Vincent just had a bump on his head. He was a cameraman who was on one of those things where the truck is going, and he fell off that and hit his head. But at first you thought it was just a head injury. That's correct. And then what happened? You actually you traveled to Florida. Yes, I immediately, with the first phone call, I said I'm going out there to see Vincent. And so I was on the way across the country, because we live in Los Angeles, to see him. And it was during mid-flight that I got a visit from the pilot, and he came over to my seat, and he said, are you Mrs. Baldino? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I just got a call from Control Tower, and you need to call this doctor at this hospital and give them permission to operate on your husband's brain, because he's dying. In the middle of the plane? In the middle of the flight. It was the longest flight I have ever taken in my life. And everyone was really wonderful. The flight attendants and the pilots were very helpful in trying to get us there faster and to hold up another airline in Atlanta so that I could make a different connection and get there earlier in case he did die. And you get there, and what did you discover? Well, he had come out of surgery, and he had so many tubes coming out of him, out of his head, his nose, his mouth. He was on a ventilator. It was breathing for him. There was no movement, other than some spasms that he was having, but basically he could not move. What did the doctors tell you? What hope did they give you? Well, they didn't give us any. In fact, when I spoke with the physician that evening on the telephone, he had already left, the neurosurgeon that had operated on my husband. He told me about the operation and that it went as best as possible. They removed part of his brain, and that he would not be the same ever again, and that it was touch and go whether or not he would live. But he was not real hopeful, you know, and so his wife the next day I had a meeting with Dr. Powell, and he said, you know, I owe you an apology. And I said, really, why? And he said, well, my wife got on me after our conversation last night because she said, God, you were a little hard on her. You got to give her a little bit of hope. So he says, okay, so I'm going to redo this. He says, he's not dead, so let's go from there. And that was my hope. Some hope. That was some hope. Man. But clearly, you're getting such a grim prognosis. You didn't give up. No, That was on a Tuesday where he had the operation. And on Wednesday, I was by his side the whole time, and finally they said, Stacy, you need to go get some rest. I was really not doing so well. And I felt okay, but my stomach had been bothering me, and so the producer's wife had asked if there was anything she could get for me, and I said, well, yeah, maybe something for my stomach. It's a little upset. And she said, well, what would you like? And we named off a juice, and then I said, it may be an EPT test. I thought, well, I don't know why, but maybe you should get me a pregnancy test. And so she looked at me, I looked at her, and I couldn't believe it had come out of my mouth. So that evening, Wednesday, about midnight, I left Vincent's room, went back to my hotel room, took a test, and it was positive that I was pregnant. So here I thought, God, why at this point in time? We've been married 12 years, and we don't have any children, and we were wanting children. I'm almost 38, so, time's running out, and
you get pregnant, and your husband is in very bad shape.
Yeah, he's probably not going to live at that point. And so I went to his room at 1 in the morning, and I told him I was pregnant, and I would hope that he would want to try to get out of this to help me through raising a child.
He was in a coma, but you told him?
Oh, yes. I believe that he can hear. And even though Vincent, if I ask him, do you remember what happened in the coma? He says, no, I don't remember anything. But just about a week or so ago, I told Vincent, I said, there's something I need to tell you. I haven't told you about something that happened when you were in your coma, and it's something we need to talk about. And he said, you're pregnant. So I think he heard.
When did Roger get involved?
Well, Roger came into my life, in all of our lives, in a strange way. It was actually a person on the production company whom I had never met, who had a friend who had a friend, who read an article that had been published in the October issue of New Age Journal, where they talk about people in comas and coming back from them. And Roger was one of the feature articles. So the friend gave it to a friend who gave it to me, and then I read it, and I must say I was a little nervous about it because they used the word healer. And when I read it, I was a little skeptical because I come from the South Baptist, and I thought, oh, gee, it's going to be this hands-on thing, and then Vincent's going to spring out of bed, and, it just was a little strange. And I thought, oh, a healer, gee, I am desperate. So, but actually I was very desperate. But it ended up being after I had a conversation with Roger, I realized that he's a really down-to-earth kind of guy.
What did he do?
He took his hand, Vincent's hand, and he wiggled his thumb. He said, you feel your thumb? I want you to wiggle it. Do you feel that? And then he connected it. Roger took his hand and ran it up Vincent's arm and up his neck and to his brain and said, now, that's where it is. Now, you try it. So Vincent, after, I think it was about a day and a half with Roger working with him, Roger said, Vincent, move your thumb. And he did. And then he said, let's try your little finger. And Vincent moved his little finger. And he, in the meantime, is in a very deep coma, according to the doctors.
What do you do? Describe for us, Roger, what you do.
I would say the foundation of it is compassion. That I have compassion for where they are, and what I'm trying to do is connect with them and ask them, what do they want to do? Do they realize where they are? Do they realize what's happened? If they're on an extended vacation, let's sell the house. But if they're coming back, let's make repairs. Yeah. And so I'm trying to get them to say, if you're coming back, give me some sort of sign. And when I feel that link has been established, then I ask for a response. I tell them specifically what I want.
And then, having made contact with them in the place where you sense they are, they are then able to be responsive in ways that just average people.
One individual I worked with is the only individual out of all of them that remembers everything, and the way he explained it was that he remembered the other side. That's exactly what he said. And that he saw the people that were there and who he's talking to, and the way he described to me is that when I came in the room and talked to him, it was like an old friend speaking from far away, talking about things that were familiar, and that I helped build the bridge for him to come back. Now, I don't heal people. I don't save people. All I do is just try to make it clear for them what's happened to them and what do they want to do.
The question then becomes, can anyone potentially do this? Can anyone do what you do?
Anybody who loves another being and has compassion and is wanting the well-being, the best for the other person is perfect. They're capable of doing this.
Roger taught all of us how to work with Vincent, including the ICU nurses, which this was a little bit off their beaten path. And Roger had made it so that we would watch his vital signs and watch his progress, watch his breathing, watch everything so that we could find those waking moments so that we could communicate with Vincent on his terms and when he was ready.
Okay. Well, when we return, we'll see how tragedy was turned to triumph thanks to Roger's special gift, a wife's faith and the determination of a man who was given up for dead. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Other Side. Vincent Baldino's turning point came when he was thrown from a truck while filming a movie scene in the dark world of Coma. Vincent's doctors, his friends, and his family thought that was the end. But as often happens in the movies, the end was just the beginning. Once he began responding from the coma, his recovery was pretty rapid. How is he doing now?
Oh, he's doing tremendously well, and much to the surprise of all the doctors, because they didn't think he was going to make it. They even thought that 2 days after the accident that they had told me he was going to die and that I should go say goodbye to him. So I did. And he, since then, has proven everyone wrong. He's able to do incredible things. And, you know, it's on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day basis, actually, I can see incredible improvement.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you take us through what we're going to see here?
Oh, this is on our camping trip. Actually, I think this is where I got pregnant. This is where we went to Ojai. We love to camp, and we love nature. And this is my guy. I think he's upset that I'm a little too close. He directs everything. You know, he's a cameraman.
Never go camping without
So here he's telling us about all the tools to take, you know, in case we need, you know, some help here on a camping trip, which we've needed many times. He's Italian, so he has that really incredible attitude. I don't know what to say. that will to live. This was when he was still in a coma, and this is about all that you got out of him. Then he started moving, thanks to Roger and a lot of the alternative therapy that we did with Vincent.
This movement we're seeing was
that's a big movement, by the way,
to working with Roger.
Yes, and then he just about a few days later, he's touching my hair and he's giving, you know, squeezing my hand. Here I asked him, how are you doing? And he said, A-OK. He's doing A-OK. They'd removed the trachs and a lot of the tubes. This is when we went to San Diego for the first stage of the acute rehab, and he's learning to feed himself. He had to learn to swallow, learn to blink, learn to do all that, and this is just a few months ago. Here he's trying to read. And this is a no fear cap that one of the crew people sent him that I think gave him a lot of inspiration. And again, he was having to learn to swallow. He has double vision, so everything he grabs, there's two of them, and he has to figure it out. This is during Christmas. It was just the two of us. It was a very strange Christmas in a hospital room, but we were very, very thankful for it. It was probably the most special Christmas we've ever had. And another hat. He loves hats. He's just an incredible guy. He has an incredible will. This is a scene not long ago, about a week ago, where we woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and he thought I was his assistant cameraman and told me to do a scene of him going down the hallway. He forgot I was his wife. Just for a moment, but I remind him.
From no hope. From deep coma with no hope to that. Well, let's meet this truly amazing and inspiring man, Vincent Baldino. Vincent? Oh, boy, we are happy to have you here.
Thank you.
You tell us how you're doing?
I'm doing great now.
Mm-hmm.
Doing terrific now.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear Roger differently when you were sick than you heard other voices?
Yeah.
Was it clearer?
Yeah.
Could you hear Stacy? Could you hear your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything different about Roger's voice?
A little bit. It sounds like he's got a cold now.